It's Saturday morning, and guess where we are? We're at the Elder Council with Dewey Freeman and Mark Sylvester. I'm your host and co-hosting here with my good friend Dewey. Dewey, it's how
Good
long into
morning
the
to
new
everybody.
year can you say Happy New Year? Do you have a rule on that?
Oh, no, I don't. But usually I go to oftentimes the end of January.
I think Emily Post, for you kids out there, Emily Post used to write an etiquette column in the newspapers, but you probably don't know what newspapers are either. That's why we're
Or
the
who
elders.
Emily is. If you know who Emily Post is, you can join our show as an
Yeah.
elder.
Some people, it's like after 3 days, it's like stop it, no, it's over.
Really?
Yeah, stop it. Some it's like Happy New Year is like noon on the first, and then some it's if you haven't seen, I think if you haven't seen someone during the month of January and you see them again, you can do Happy New Year.
Got it. Yeah, a lot of times halfway through January, I sort of start switching to, you know, I hope you have a great year. I'm wishing you a good year or something like that instead of just a Happy New Year. So that makes
Today
there's sort of a slider.
I'm really interested in, I'm having conversations about creativity this week,
Hmm.
and I want
I
to.
hope they're creative conversation.
They were extremely creative conversations, and part of part of I think I'm going to call the show Cultivating Creativity, because
Mm,
I have experience with talking to people who don't self-identify as being creative.
really?
Yeah.
Do you know how they self-identify? Do you have a
No,
sense of how?
I wasn't trying to figure that part out, but it was back in the day doing animation software and create helping graphically create things. People go, but I'm not creative, Mark. Like, we create things for creative professionals. And someone said, I don't identify as a creative professional. And me, that's so who I am. It's hard to hear that because I feel bad for them,
Well, bad that they don't see themselves as creative?
that they don't experience the joy of creativity.
Um, so in your world, what creates the opening, speaking of creativity, what creates the opening for being creative?
A problem.
Mm, okay.
Almost, gosh, man, I don't want to talk in superlatives, but I'm going to say the majority of the time when I find myself being creative, it is in the pursuit of a solution.
Mm. Is in that pursuit of a solution, are there any particular attributes that for you help you jump into it? And that may be a loaded question because I actually have a thing in mind that I want
Do you
to
want
at
me to
some
ask
point
you
want to
that
throw in.
question?
No, not yet. I'll answer you answer and then you ask me.
I actually, it's interesting you put it that way, because I addressed this in my TED talk, that when you recognize that there's a problem or a thing to be done,
Mm,
hey, I need to create a one-page description of a program. Okay, or I've got to figure out how I'm going to outwit the damn squirrel who keeps getting my bird seed, right? Both are examples of creativity, or in some cases maybe ingenuity, which I think is related. um, and it is, for me, recognizing there's an opportunity to solve a problem, or there's a problem that needs to be solved. Then I have to decide, is it my problem to be solved?
okay.
Right. So we have a saying around here, not my circus, not my monkeys. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So is it mine to solve? Meaning, and do I have the green field in which to solve it? Can I try lots of different things I don't have to go ask for permission or ask for guidance or how would you like it solved. That's different,
Mhm.
right? In the sense of, hey, here's a bunch of what I do a lot of the time is organized information so that it can be consumed. That's a long way of saying, take a bio. I did this yesterday. Took a bio of a friend of mine and turned it in the bio and a whole slew of pictures, turned it into a website about him.
Mm.
And being able to, how do you break the information down? What's a great flow for how we're going to read about this man? And how do the pictures support the imagery, the text? And I love that. And that was being creative because there was no rule to how I had to solve the problem. I just knew there needed to be an artifact at the end of the day that he could send people to and say, this is who I am. And so, but
Okay.
it was my responsibility, or I took on the responsibility, if that's what it is. And I think what happens then is, for me, I'm not asking permission anywhere for the initial
Right.
creative part, like the initial get the thing done, get my vision of whatever the thing is, whatever the answer is. Then I've learned how to park my ego so that I can then take notes on the creation and not, so okay, I didn't like the blue. That was a choice I made, was blue. I like green. Okay, great. Green's great. But I picked the fact that there is a color here instead of nothing.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
And its ability, it's the taking notes and listening, and that I love that part of it, because we've heard writers say that the writing isn't the hard part, it's the editing.
That so true.
So I think that's the same in creativity. So what I love is the initial rush of making the thing and doing all the stuff you have to do, and then see how that works. The same with cooking, except with cooking, dude, it's already cooked. Next time I make that dish, yes, maybe a little less oregano.
Got it. One of the things that I think about when I think about creativity is risk.
Mm,
And I do not believe, I believe that creativity, the level of creativity is a, and the level of risk in creating something, those two things go together.
so give me an example of that.
Well, on a smaller basis, if you're cooking something or if you're putting together a website, you're putting out on, when you allow yourself to be incredibly creative, say with a new dish or with a website for a person that you've taken some writing and some pictures and putting together, and you're taking a risk that you can put it out, you will put it out, and someone could be very critical of it. Somebody could go, Mark, I don't like that. And that's where, when you were talking about the ego piece coming in. But I do, or you could, for instance, go look at 50 websites and go, well, I want 30 of those websites sort of look like this. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. The level of risk that we take allows a sort of level of risk that we're willing to take, allows us, I think, to be more creative. And that's on a smaller level.
I'm going to ask a on a part
Go for
because
it.
that
Go for it.
very quick question. So in my meditation yesterday, it was this not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, being in the present.
Mhm.
And so if I'm worried about how a thing I'm creating is going to be received, whatever that is, I am living in the future. I'm not being present. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Therefore, we just took all the risk out. Maybe.
Talk more about that. I'm not sure. I actually saw where you were going partway through that.
If in fact I'm being present, I'm now want to create the thing that I feel solves this problem I'm trying to solve, whatever that is. I'm trying to get to a place, and I'm not. Yes, I want people to like it, but that's not the driving force. If all I'm doing is making stuff that people are going to like, I'm not serving myself. I'm serving other people, and I'm in service. That's different, right? But if I'm only doing because I'm pandering, then I'm just going to make stuff that doesn't matter if I like it or not. I'm optimizing for the return of the the attaboy or the accolade, adulation, or what accolades. Take that in the edit.
I got it. Well, let's say you decide to make a new dish of some sort of.
I'm doing one right here. Farro with roasted squash, feta, and mint. Picture looked good, so I'm gonna make that.
And so you put that together, and you are in the middle of a creative process. At some point, someone's going to taste that.
Yes.
And you're running the risk of them not liking it.
Yes.
I think there is a risk in there. I'm getting what you're saying, that if we're completely present with what we're doing, then that removes the risk. Let me tie a few things together here. I want to mention Kimberly, your Kimberly, and the storytelling piece that she's teaching. It's a course I'm taking right now, so I'm plugging her course. In one of her initial videos, like preview, I don't know if it's the right word, preview, but in the initial visitor videos, she talked about Wade Davis and the first TED Talk, which in my memory is 2003.
Correct.
And that piqued my interest too. And here's what's interesting is my Kimberly was talking about Wade Davis a few days before that.
Wow.
And when I heard Wade Davis's name from both Kimberlys, I went, whoa, I got to do something with this. And I'd listened to a little bit of what my Kimberly was talking about. And I went onto YouTube and looked up Wade Davis TED Talk 2003. Well, it came up 23 minutes long. My understanding is that was the first TED Talks. Is that right?
No. So TED had a conference for years until 2001 where things were recorded and put out on DVD to members only. They were never ever put on the internet. So Wade was in the first, and then in in 06, 8 were released. So that one was probably taken off the DVD master and put up, because I think what they did is they went through the archives and started pulling shows and putting them back up. So it was in the early days of Chris Anderson era, which started in 2001.
Got it. So that still works with where I'm going with this, because the risk of going from everything being contained to going to public, it's like people might not have liked it.
That's another story for another show, and you're 100% right.
And what was also interesting was in the if I look up a recent TED Talk, there's a huge stage, there's a big sort of circular, semicircular wall behind, there's high technology.
It's $1 million
huge
production.
Yeah. In this TED Talk, it was like Wade standing there, and there's a little, it looked like about a 4x6 screen up there, and and over on if he's facing me on his right, there were all the computers and and
Yep.
and what he was saying was also incredibly creative, and it was an incredible risk for him to put that out there, because he's, at least potentially in certain circles, could be very controversial. And but it was like, here was a group of people, and it was clear that he wasn't the only presenter on that particular day. But here's a group of people that are like putting their hearts and souls out there into the world and letting happen whatever happens. That's a fairly risky thing. And not that anybody's going to necessarily die from it, but more like, is your creativity going to be supported, or is your creativity going to be squashed, or what is that? And it's turned into, again, $1 million production at this point. So that's part of what I'm talking about, is the idea of taking something that may or may not be accepted into whatever is going, whatever comes comes down the road. And it's actually the same thing I did when I started the Gestalt Equine Institute of the Rockies. There were programs out there that were teaching equine assisted therapy, and I went and got a second level certification in those programs. But I kept going, this isn't enough. This is it's not hitting the point. It's not hitting where we need to hit. So I started a program then called Speaking Horse, and then that evolved into the Gestalt Institute. Well, that was a risk. It was like me saying the status quo doesn't work. And it wasn't necessarily a problem. Nobody was out there going, oh, this program's a problem.
Except you.
Except me.
So it was a problem you had.
It was a problem that I had. And it was like, this isn't enough. And I literally put out in our first, after we put the first program together, we put together a very simple, straightforward website that essentially said, we are the finest Gestalt equine program in the country, which we were. And we got a bunch of pushback on that, because people are going, well, my program's just as good as yours. And it's like, well, your program's not Gestalt. Your program leaves out relational stuff. But it was like that, both the creativity of what we're doing and going, this isn't enough, and also the creativity of then diving deeper into what we were doing and staying with that even when we were getting some fairly significant pushback.
So I'm retitling the show.
In a very creative way.
The courage to create.
Exactly. Because, and you're right. And that's, I mean, that's actually one of the pieces that I admire about you, and is that you have that courage to create. You have that courage to put yourself out there and go, here it is. Here I am. I'm sort of emotionally naked out here. Here I am. Hello, everybody. This is what I'm putting together. And you may, I mean, I don't know about you and your career. I know in my career, I've certainly had failures
Oh,
that
all the
I went,
time.
oh yeah, man, this is going to be great. And I was like, oh, well, not
But
really.
it in one universe that the failure is a reflection of me and my effort, but it is not. I am not a failure. That thing failed, and I'm able to. I don't know how or when that happened, but I've been able to disassociate from that thing enough to protect myself. And I don't know if that's ego strength. It could be ego strength. It's like, hey, they're not attacking you, they're attacking your work. Well, yeah, that's attacking me in one universe, clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm I mean, and let's not even get started on people who create and put something out on the internet and then all the haters get on there. I'm not even going there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not even going there. But if someone doesn't like something, go back to the cooking, they don't like something, that's what Master Rick would say, an opportunity to train. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what was it you didn't like? Oh, well, you
Exactly.
hadn't asked me. I don't like Pharaoh. Oh, had never come up. I didn't think to ask you that.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So what was it about it you didn't like? Well, it's kind of, grains are really big. Oh, have you ever tried barley? Barley has kind of a similar mouth feel, but it's smaller. Have you? No, I've not. Well, let's try the recipe with barley. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not me. There's no, I think the thing as I get older is as hard as this is, I'm trying to remove judgment from my universe, from my reality.
Well, exactly. And which, interestingly enough, is about 80% of the work that I do with people is helping them remove judgment.
Oh,
Just an aside.
huh.
Um,
Good.
yeah. Well, and what you're speaking to and what you spoke to earlier was a whole process of separating personhood and behavior,
Right.
which is
Which we've
it's
talked about with the kid, with the baby,
right,
who threw the food on the floor.
right. It's like, okay, I'm not the grain that's in there. I'm not the barley. I made this meal. One of the pieces in taking and you also mentioned ego strength and the way that I would look at what you're talking about is working on dropping your ego, which instead of having ego strength, like I can stand up to this, it's like dropping it and being able to say, yeah, that's what I got today. I can take this and continue being creative and do something with this tomorrow. Um,
I think it's, ego strength might be the wrong word, but the feeling is that, and it's not about me putting my, hey, if you didn't like it, then, I mean, it's not that at all. It's not allowing the criticism to wither me.
exactly. And my wording for that is allowing that energy to move through you.
Okay.
Um,
And so the person who's listening right now, who's afraid, it's hard to find the courage to create because they fear the judgment. There you go. There it is.
exactly.
There it is. There it is.
Exactly.
Boom. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen.
Mic drop. Bye, Mark.
So did I connect the dots right, Doc?
That you did, exactly. And that's what I'm talking about is we can be in the present when we're creating. And when we are in the present, I do believe that's when we're the most creative. When we're like, boom, here we are. I'm putting this together. I'm designing this. I'm creating this program. Whatever that may be. And that's in the present. And I suppose we have the choice of just creating for ourselves and never putting it out. And that actually removes the risk. unless we're
Uh,
self-judging.
yeah, there's I, I l- I love listening to artists of any level, music, painters, architects, any maker, someone who's a maker. Um,
Hmm.
when I hear that, well, I just made it for myself. The fact that you like it really doesn't matter to me. I've heard that.
Hmm.
Like I don't care if you like it. Like they have a little attitude around it sometimes. I've heard that too. It's like
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
you've
no, I totally get it.
yeah, you've misconstrued my purpose here. It was not for you. Why are you making my art about you?
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm sorry. I like
Oops.
it. I just said I like it. Well, good. The angry artist. But it's interesting because I was a sign painter in high school. I started painting Christmas windows as a way to make Christmas money because I don't like mowing lawns and taking out trash and doing normal kinds of chores that 15 and 16-year-old kids do. So I painted Christmas windows, made better
That's
money
pretty
doing it,
cool.
which turned into sign painting. And I became a sign painter as a side hustle to my cooking. And I did quite a bit of that. And what was interesting is I would run into artists because it was ostensibly art. It wasn't just signs. It was, I did windows. I did window
Right,
designs and
right.
stuff.
Hmm.
And they said, do you paint at home? I would get this question. I mean, like, do you paint? Do you draw? Are you an artist? I said, I was like, why would I do that? I'm not getting paid. So I never did art for art's sake. And so I was living in a very commercial world. And then I would run into artists who were, no, man, that's not why you do it. It's because it's for the art, that vibe.
Hmm.
And and for me, it's always been the creation in the service of some commercial goal when I'm doing that kind of thing. And now that I'm working on trying to get retired, I I wonder how my 68 years, it's probably 50 years of that mindset will shift or not. This first time I'm thinking about that,
Mm.
creating something just for like we're gonna, we want to turn the show into a book, right?
Right.
That's for the creativity of it and the capturing of it and the service of it. It's not because we're getting paid and we have a big book deal to go service. So I think maybe I'm slowly getting over to that side.
What strikes me is that we can be creative and make a living at it, which is what you are speaking of. Or we can be creative and for another reason and not necessarily to not necessarily commercially. When we can be creative and make a living at it, what that says to me is that we're working to live, not living to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And we're not putting widgets together all day long. We're actually trying to bring in something that is nurturing to us in our process of making a living. A lot of what you do, and frankly, a lot of what I do, and well, I'll speak for myself because this is a piece that I speak about, is that therapy, which is the way I primarily make my living. I'm doing some other things too, but and shifting into some of those other things. But therapy is an art. And when I'm in the process of creating art with another person through relational healing, then yeah, it's work, and it's different than other kinds of work. Um, and what you do, you're an artist in what you do, and even in that, there is a level of there's a level of risk, especially if you're going to put it out. One of the things that I've done is, and this is in conjunction with my partner Kimberly, is named this year the Year of Magic and Imagination. And here's why I did that, is because there's something inside of me that's going, something's missing, something's not there yet, something needs to be spoken to that's not being spoken to. And I'm not even sure what that is yet. So there's that there, and I don't know whether I'll do it and make money from it, or whether I'll do it and go, okay, well, that was interesting. I don't know. But it's like there's a drive inside of me. And one of the risk factors is if I put the time and energy into whatever that is, I will not have the same amount of time to work with clients. So, because whatever I'm going to do will take time. And how am I going to do that? So it's not just, I don't think it's just the risk of, is somebody going to like what we're doing? But it's the risk of literally changing your life to become an artist and spending your time finding that place where you can be creative in a way that that brings on a level of satisfaction to you.
That feels like the perfect way to end this. That pursuit. This is the question we would ask the person listening: is there something that you feel you need to do? It's an itch to scratch, to your point.
Yes, exactly.
And how expensive is the scratching?
How expensive is that itch?
Well, the scratch that solves it, right? It might be simple, or I might need to, it might take a year of my time that I don't have, so I have to do some other, I mean, we can do the, get out a spreadsheet or do the I learned Ben Franklin would do the T with the pros and cons of each thing. So, okay, here's the pros and cons of all of that. It might be a measured risk, right? Calculated risk, right? It's like, okay, I want to do that thing, but I'm also mature adult reasoning. I'm going to think about this. I'm not going to just go willy-nilly out. And I would have enough confidence in my ability to solve this problem. And that I know that there's a bunch of stuff I don't know. I know that I have I have conscious incompetence.
Exactly.
Right. Which we've talked about. But you trust yourself enough to say, I'm going to make good decisions along this path. And when I don't, I will learn from it. I will adjust and continue along the path, right? The part is not taking a step, it's committing to taking the next step. That's the hard part. Right. So I love that you named your year something that's a little scary. And I don't know if it's scary, but there's an aspect of the unknown to it.
It's like, okay, there is a little bit of scariness in it.
And I think that challenge to us as creative people, everybody is creative, whether you've unlocked that, admitted it, and stepped into it and owned it. You're right. It is a little scary because you are risking something. Who knows what that is, but there is risk to that. It's a risk. I wasted my time. Could be as simple as that.
Exactly.
Could be as simple as that.
Exactly.
So let's just encourage people to cultivate the courage to create.
Absolutely.
Dewey Freeman, my friend, I don't know what I would do without these Saturdays to figure out these big things.
I know. This is very creative, actually.
Thank you, my friend. Till we talk again.
Thank you.